All right, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? Good morning. Good morning. Wednesday, August 5th, 8:01 on the dot. What time does the show start? Is it 8 or 8:01? I thought it was 8:01 personally, so I think we had a couple people a little early. I think we had them a little bit early. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much for hanging out. Shout out to everybody still hanging out this deep into the off season. So I know I said yesterday I was going to get Pincus on. I thought it was going to be on Thursday. We were able to schedule him today, so that's why obviously we're going up this morning. Posted something on YouTube, I think last night, letting everybody know. So hopefully everybody's here. Whether you're here live or you're end up catching this thing a little bit later recorded, very much appreciate you guys being a part of the channel and a part of the show. Please do me a favor. It is absolutely free to do it. Please subscribe to the channel. We got to get to 40,000 subscribers. Come on. Come on. What are we doing here? Please support the channel that way. Like, share, and obviously subscribe. Those are three great ways that are all free to give some love to the channel. All right, we got a packed show today. Eric Pincus is going to join us in about 10, 12 minutes or so. And actually got some good stuff today. Sometimes I look at the topics, and Eric does a good job of putting everything together. And we got a couple updates here. Got a couple things that we can, that we can work on, that we could update everybody on. And I think some just general conversations. So looking forward to doing the show today. Let me give everyone a quick idea, a little rundown here. This is coffee number 2. So if it feels like I'm a little wired today, I'm a little wired. And that's because of coffee number 2. Coffee number 1, it's more like there's a purpose for coffee number 1. Coffee number 2, it like takes you to a whole nother state of mind. You know, it's like the drink you didn't need late at night. That's kind of what coffee number 2 is. All right, let me give everyone a quick rundown. We'll take a look at some of the comments, and we will go from there. Let's give everyone a quick idea here. Let's see what we got here. There's kind of some, if you want to call it small updates, but yesterday there was a live broadcast, a live stream from Jake Fisher. Does a great job, part of Bleacher Report, and also does that Stein line. So does that Stein Report, the Mark Stein Substack that they're a part of. He had an update on Klay Thompson, that the Mavs are hesitant to buy out Klay Thompson because of the interest of the Lakers and the Heat. Gotta be honest with you, I don't know if I'm 100% sure what the interest is of the Lakers. It feels like, at least, from the outside looking in, it feels like that would be something that kind of goes against what the Lakers' entire offseason has been. I'll play that clip so you guys can get a chance to listen to it. Jake Fisher had something on PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford that I think kind of probably puts things into perspective on the PJ Washington front and the Dallas Mavericks front. Saw some stuff that, Luka would be interested in a reunion with PJ Washington, but I think it's really coming down to, I don't know if the Lakers are interested in PJ Washington. I think they're just not interested from a dollar perspective. So I'll play that from Jake Fisher as well, so you guys get a chance to see that. Guest Eric Pincus, like I mentioned, he's going to join us here in a little bit. And really with Pincus, we're going to hit on a number of different, topics. And I think probably the most important thing here is what is next for the Lakers? Like, what do they do from here? And if you're looking at Rob Pelinka, can you assess the Lakers offseason without this final piece? Or do you need that final piece to really be the kind of that's the determining factor of whether you feel like, hey, Lakers had a good offseason, a great offseason, okay offseason, whatever the case is. So we'll hit on a number of different things with Eric Pincus, which I think is going to be a fun conversation as far as what's next for the Lakers. Kuminga reportedly was close to signing over the weekend, but it cooled off. Do you guys remember Brad Rowland? Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks joined us for a show about a couple of weeks ago. And he talked about how he heard that Kuminga was close, and no real details after that. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that on the Kuminga front, and I'll spend most of my time on that. I'll do that with Eric Pincus. Pelinka's offseason, I'll also kind of have that conversation with Eric as well. Is it too early to kind of judge the Lakers offseason, even though we are on August 5th? Or do we just have to allow this thing to play out and how the Lakers end up with a power forward? I thought there was an interesting piece of sound here, or an interesting clip from Nick Wright. Nick Wright obviously does the What's Right podcast, but also does his show on Fox Sports with Chris Broussard and their whole crew. Really good show, actually. I enjoyed that show. Nick Wright says the Lakers are the biggest losers in the LeBron saga, despite churning team over to Luka. So we'll play some of that. I think, his mindset on that is more about how he feels like the Lakers could have found a way to still hand the keys over to Luka, plus bring LeBron back. So kind of an interesting perspective there, a little bit different than what we've been hearing. We'll play that. Got a couple things around the NBA, and then we'll call it a day. So thank you again. Appreciate you guys being here. Just a quick heads up. Tomorrow, I will be posting something at 8 a.m. I'm going to be recording a podcast later tonight. I'll be posting it at 8 a.m. tomorrow. We'll be doing it with a guest that's been on the show before and covers the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll kind of talk from a Cavs perspective and a Lakers perspective on this Kuminga front. So just a heads up, that's going to be coming up tomorrow. All right, let's take a look at a couple of the comments, and then we will officially get the show started. Shout out to everybody being here. Let's see a couple of these comments here. What do we got here? No more Kuminga. Can't stand the guy already. We can't afford PJ Washington reunion. Costs too much, both with his contract and with their request for a first rounder we don't have. I wanted him over JK, but not with these demands. Masai Ujiri don't play. Masai Ujiri is solid. But I'll tell you, Masai Ujiri will be open for business. Like, that might have been different in the past because of the Luka trade with Dallas. I think now, you just you kind of wipe the it's a clean slate between the two franchises, because I think Masai Ujiri, all he cares about is how can he improve his own team. Trade Bronny already. What happened to Bronny? What happened to Bronny? Nothing even happened. I mean, does Bronny, how did he get mixed into this entire thing? All right, Nick loves LeBron. Of course, he'd say that the team is the biggest offseason. This team is the biggest offseason winner. Okay, we'll come back to that here in a little bit. All right, let's get the show started. Thank you very much for being here. Eric Pincus coming up in about 7 or 8 minutes. All right, I want to play two things here real quick. First, I want to play it on the Klay Thompson front. The Klay thing was something that we talked a little bit about yesterday. I gave my opinion on that just feels like the Lakers got younger. It feels like the Lakers got more athletic. It feels like the Lakers kind of have a vision of what this next chapter of Lakers basketball is going to be. Would Klay Thompson fit into that mold? My answer would be no. I don't think he does. Now, if you want to make an argument that, hey, if you got Klay Thompson on a buyout, Eric, why don't you set up this sound here? If you got Klay Thompson on a buyout, and, that's obviously how you ended up getting him, and it's only costing you pennies on the dollar, and Klay's going to be good for the locker room, and you know what? Klay can still potentially space the floor out a little bit. You only got to play maybe 15 minutes, and I could be sold on it, but I still think it kind of goes against the way the Lakers, kind of the foundation of what the Lakers did this offseason. So that was yesterday. I was mentioning that I don't know if it makes the most sense in the world. At least it doesn't make the most sense to me. It doesn't feel like it lines up with the philosophy that the Lakers had in the offseason. I want you guys to take a listen to this, because Jake Fisher, a Bleacher Report yesterday during a live stream, said something that kind of surprised me here a little bit, as far as what the Mavs being hesitant to buy out Klay Thompson, because there are a couple teams that are interested, including the Los Angeles Lakers. Take a listen.
Really not a surprise to me at all, because, again, Klay Thompson very nearly chose the Los Angeles Lakers with then LeBron James over joining Dallas originally to pair with Luka Dončić. And where's Luka Dončić right now? Of course, with the Lakers. So there's plenty of connective tissue there that makes sense here. The only thing is, the Mavericks have been very resistant, to my understanding, of actually moving forward and agreeing to a buyout with Klay Thompson. They believe this market that's shaping up for him, the fact that there is some LA interest, the fact that there is Miami interest, there's probably other places that have interest in Klay Thompson as well. We've talked in the past about how I think if he were to find a buyout agreement, that there'd be mutual interest between Klay and the Golden State Warriors. That I think all that is indicative of why Dallas believes that they should not have to buy out Klay Thompson, similar to Zach LaVine in Sacramento. Obviously, very different players, very different playing styles, different stages of their careers, but I think they're similar situations where both teams believe that there should be trade value for that player, to the point where there's no need really to solve and find a contract buyout agreement.
All right, so that's Jake Fisher from yesterday doing his live stream of Bleacher Report. So mentions the Lakers in there, mentions the Warriors in there, mentions the Miami Heat in there, basically saying that, hey, if there's some legitimate interest in Klay Thompson, then why are we going to buy him out? Well, I will tell you one of the reasons why you'd buy him out. I don't know if anybody's going out there and trying to match contracts with you to go get $17 million off the books or match $17 million for Klay Thompson. And frankly, I think if the Lakers did that, it wouldn't really make that much sense to me. I get it. Maybe some spacing on the floor. Maybe there's you just want a winner inside of your locker room. I get that. I'm okay with that. I mean, I could be sold on that with Klay Thompson, but that's on a buyout. That's not trading for Klay Thompson. I mean, if you got any assets left that you're trying to trade, aren't you trying to use those to try to go get your power forward? Are you really trying to go get those for a 36-year-old that, God bless Klay Thompson? I mean, Klay Thompson was such an easy guy to watch and like during his entire career. Obviously, one of the killers in the NBA. I just think back at some of those games that Klay used to have, where, what was it, Game 6 against the Oklahoma City Thunder, where it looked like the Thunder were going to move on, and all of a sudden Klay Thompson comes out of nowhere and does what he does. But the Klay front, that one kind of confuses me a little bit, and I think that's going to be a great conversation to have, obviously, with Eric Pincus in regards to that. The one other thing that I'll mention here, and I will not play the clip, but I will just kind of this will be kind of, a good dialogue and a good conversation to have. So Bleacher Report, Jake Fisher says that the Mavs would be open to moving P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford for the right price, and all indications dating back to the previous regime in Dallas are they would want first-round pick in return for both of those guys. He said that he hasn't heard any team being interested in P.J. Washington, that more teams have shown interest in Gafford. He said Laker fans and Mavs fans bring up Washington because of the Luka connection, but he hasn't heard anything about the Lakers pursuing P.J. Washington behind the scenes. So those are just kind of wanted to get those two out there, because that's kind of the latest that we've heard in regards to that. But we've had conversations more recently about Klay Thompson, have had conversations more recently about P.J. Washington. So it just kind of gives us a little bit of an idea. And we've seen this before with P.J. Washington. Are the Lakers, do they want to take on that contract's expensive? I think it's 4 years, $88 million. He's about $22 million a year, somewhere in that range for P.J. Washington. And I don't even know if there's a path for the Lakers to try to make that happen. But at least in that broadcast, I mentioned Jake Fisher yesterday, Bleacher Report. Both of those names had come up. And this is going to be great stuff to talk about, obviously, with Eric Pincus. Okay, without further ado, let's welcome in our next guest. Is nice enough with his time to come join the show, Mr. Eric Pincus himself.
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Enjoying the summer and just looking forward to seeing how this resolves.
Yeah, let's start with this. Are you surprised how long this has kind of dragged out? Just we're sitting here August 5th and still going on?
No. I think a lot of things are on hold around the league until the Kawhi Leonard thing is resolved. Because think about it, there's a chance his contract could be voided. Like, that's a real chance. Now, I'm not going to say that happens, but it could happen. And if you're Jonathan Kuminga or any of these restricted free agents, the Clippers would suddenly have like 50 million off their books, so they would have to spend pretty quickly to get back up. And so, yeah, I think I was hoping we'd get resolution in August. We're in August now, so I think that's put a little bit of a hold on the market. But to be honest, restricted free agents like Peyton Watson and those guys, Duran, they usually take a while and get resolved right around a little bit before the start of the season, or I guess before October. Yeah.
So Pincus, so let's that's an interesting tie there, because there were a lot of ties before that the NBA was kind of waiting predominantly because of the LeBron decision. LeBron makes his decision, he goes to Philly. But now you think this obviously Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers and everything that happens there, that's kind of the next holdup. With that being said, have you heard anything in regards to when a decision like that can come? I saw some reports basically saying that it could potentially last as long as even into training camp.
Right. Well, I don't know if you follow, I'm sure you do, Pablo Torre Finds Out, his, the work he's doing, which is tremendous. Their most recent episode, they tied Kawhi to like a Rhode Island football club. And we none of us, including Pablo, know exactly where the NBA's investigation is. And even people at the NBA, because it's being run by an outside firm, don't necessarily know all the details. I'm sure Adam Silver's and their high-level executives know more than most, but there's just not a lot of sourcing to get on. Wachtell is they're not going to leak what their investigation is because they don't want to lose the NBA's business. They're making a ton of money. So the buzz is that, like, in general, bad news in the NBA comes in August, right? Because it's the most quiet month. You don't want to mess with the draft or summer league or the finals or in All-Star. It was never going to be resolved that quickly. And if they look at this RIFC thing, and if they find something, if you have two cases where if they can find some commingling of, Ballmer, and now it's a pattern. And then, I think that's what Pablo's last episode was about, is like, if there's a pattern, it's impossible to really deny this. And not that there's enough data or evidence that we possibly have, but the NBA, if they start digging into this, it could take months. And so hopefully it'll be resolved quickly. Hopefully they'll come to some compromise, somewhere that works for everyone. I don't know what the result will be. I mean, I looking at what I've seen, it looks like they should be punished, but equally they're pretty adamant that they didn't do anything. So, who the hell knows?
So to just tie that in, that could delay a Kuminga decision, to simplify it.
Well, at least, like, if it looks like at some point it'll be clear, like, I think that the NBA is like months away. We need more reports that, like, the NBA is really months away. If it's going to be like, there's going to have to be a decision on Brandon Ingram and that trade, and maybe the trade dies and all that. Like, everyone needs to know. So the NBA is going to have to at least give some sort of update to somebody. Usually it's like either Shams Charania of ESPN or who who knows? I don't know the answer there. But because, like, the restricted players, their qualifying offer expires, I think, October 1st. So, like, they need a decision around October 1st or a day or two before, at the last minute. Most of those, Peyton Watson, Ben Mathurin, I'm forgetting one other, Jalen Duren. Those guys need those decisions by then. Kuminga, he needs a home before the season, right? So doesn't make sense for him to not have a home. So I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are out there trying to figure out if there's a way to make a trade that can make something possible. But I'm curious on that one too.
So you wrote an article, and I'm going to get into it in just a second, but I want to just get your opinion on a couple things that I started the show with. But you had your article, Eric Pincus, top 3 targets to finalize their roster. So I'll get into that in just a second. What do you make of these last couple of days with some of these reports on Klay Thompson? And I'm just curious if you think, A, Klay is realistic, B, would it make sense, and C, what you think happens in the Klay Klay Thompson conversation?
Well, looking at Dallas, they're not right now in the tax, so they're below the luxury tax. That's usually a motivation for reducing salary for a buyout. But they do have 16 players, so they do need to get rid of somebody. And Klay is obviously the most likely guy. If they want to go, and if there's someone else they want to add, like a lot of times a buyout comes with needing, you desire, we have 15 guys and we want to sign someone else. We need to cut someone. Maybe that's why they cut him. And there's a buyout, and you take like $3 or $4 million, probably $4 million just under off, go to maybe the Lakers because he has a place in LA and has an affinity for the organization. His father obviously played for the Lakers. For LA, it would certainly add shooting. I don't love the idea of, surrounding Luka and Austin with another guy who's not really a defender anymore. Klay in his prime, when
a man.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be ridiculous. Yeah, because he was a very good defender and an incredible shooter. And he's the kind of guy you want with the Luka because it generally fits. That's why, in part, Dallas went after Luka, or rather Klay. So, but unfortunately, he's a bit older. But you get what you pay for, and if he's a minimum guy for the Lakers, you would have to get rid of. Lakers already have one too many guys as it is, so they do have some things to figure out. You could always cut players. That's same with the Mavericks. They can cut. I'm just looking at their roster. I don't know that there's anybody that they really want to cut. Caleb Martin is good enough. He's solid, and he has another year. And as far as like a trade, like they don't have to do a buyout. Like they would rather do a trade. But that's like is a team able to take on $17-18 million, which the Lakers could do. But then you're like, are they taking Jared Vanderbilt? To me, that seems a stretch. That like a team that has a long list of forwards, one of the reasons why I wrote about PJ Washington is that they just have so many forwards over there in Dallas. If you think Cooper Flagg's primary position is a power forward, then you have PJ, you have Santi Aldama, you have Ricochet, and then you just don't need that many guys. But I didn't write it from the point of view of hearing like, oh, there's a PJ Washington trade in the works, or there's any heated discussion. It was more of just going through who's available potentially. And, he's an interesting fit for me. So, but Klay Thompson, like PJ will defend. He won't shoot as well. I think Lakers need more of that than they need just another shooter who can't defend.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page in that one. We'll see what happens. But obviously, when conversations like that come up, it's always his name just, came up these last couple of days. And I saw the tie to Miami, potentially Golden State as well. So we'll see how that plays out. What I really wanted to do is I did kind of want to, I want to get into your article, how the Lakers can, potentially finalize their roster. As you look at this roster today, how much of it is incomplete based on really not having a starting power forward that you feel, great about? Just as you look at the roster today, how incomplete is it based off of what they're missing or what they're lacking?
Well, like for starters, it's all on paper. So, we're just using our understanding of basketball and our understanding of the players to make a determination. And so sometimes the best move for a team is to see like what it looks like before you act. Now they have one too many players, so the Lakers have to if they don't make a trade, if they don't change this, they can go towards the trade deadline, cut one player before the start of the season or trade one player and just see what they have. In my mind, Mamu, Sandru, I said it really well the other day. I'm still not quite there. Mamu Kelishvili, that's kind of close?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I've been working on it. Like in my mind, he's maybe he's a starter. He hasn't started like consistently in the NBA yet. So we're asking him to be something that he hasn't shown that he can be. That doesn't mean he can't be it. And that's where a team like the Lakers, who they don't have much left in terms of things to trade, maybe there's a reason to just see. I mean, maybe he's better than what. I'm not saying he's bad. I just don't know that I actually like him as a player, and he was on my recommendation list for the team before the season, before the offseason. But I view him as more of an offensive player and not a defender. And so again, we're getting into that territory where I feel like they did address some of the needs around Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves, but I don't feel like they really properly addressed the athleticism and size that you need defensively to protect the basket other than Kessler. And I feel like they're one or two players short, really a starting power forward. So that's where I personally think they need a trade. You'd rather do it before the season so you have training camp, so you can have everyone on the same page and build something. Unless they believe in Mamu more than I do as a starter. And, Jake LaRavia could start. He really struggled in the playoffs on offense. Decent to maybe even good defender. The variables of like a Duthero who had a good summer, but he seems super raw. Jared Vanderbilt doesn't seem like JJ Redick favors how he plays. And, he isn't an offensive option. I don't think Dalton Connect has shown much. They can go small with guys like Matisse Thybulle, or actually Zaire Williams is, I think, 6'8". I don't know if he's necessarily a starting power forward in this league, but like that's where the Lakers need to decide. Is there some combination of things that it's worth seeing if it works before you make that change, and making that change over the season during the deadline or ahead of the deadline? I'd rather they do it before, but that's the only counter argument I can think about.
How realistic do you think that is to try to address that need before the season? And I know you listed out, some of the names that you put out there. Kuminga, of course. You mentioned PJ Washington, DeAndre Hunter. But just, I think conceptually, how realistic do you think it is that before they get to training camp, they're able to address that spot? Because I think most people would agree with you. Mamu's probably would be a great addition for the Lakers, but ideally come off the bench. Zaire Williams, more of a depth piece, not necessarily somebody that you feel like should be in the starting rotation. Can that change? Sure. Maybe he explodes with the Lakers. But how realistic do you think it could be before we get to training camp?
So the most realistic problem is that Jonathan Kuminga needs a contract. That's his problem. It's not the Lakers' problem, but it is a real problem, right? This is an NBA player caliber we could debate. Some people don't like him. Some people think he's very, very good. Somewhere in there, he's definitely at least a borderline starter, and in the right situation, a starter. Now, I don't love the fit on the Lakers because I think he's more of a mid-range shooter. I think he's closer to, or wanting to be something closer to maybe how Kawhi Leonard and Brandon Ingram play, although Kawhi has the three. But if Kuminga becomes more of a reliable catch and shoot guy, who doesn't want to get to his spots, like, honestly, actually, Rui Hachimura came in not as a catch and shoot guy as much as like he wanted to get to those elbows and get to his little step backs and stuff. He had to adjust. So Kuminga could adjust. The challenge that I have, for everybody, and like I said, it's the most realistic problem. So it becomes the most realistic solution because the Lakers could solve this problem. Now, the answer to, how do you solve the problem is a sign and trade, because they don't have any money left in terms of signing. So they could sign him for the minimum, but I don't think that's realistic for Kuminga. The problem with the sign and trade is that it has to be a 3-year deal with no options. Right. And so if it's not at a number that Kuminga's happy with, then he will take a shorter deal and try to go to free agency next year. So that's where a team like the Cavaliers might be able to get him for the taxpayer mid-level, which is like $6 million, more than what the Lakers can do, but a 1-year deal might be better for him than taking like 15 for 3 years, right? If he got like 45 million from the Lakers or 50 or something like that, whatever that number is, I would actually argue that's probably a deal he should take, but he may not feel that way. His agent may not feel that way. And they may think he can get closer to 20 next year, maybe get like a 70-something million contract the next year, and maybe it's worthwhile. Personally, I think for him, a 3-year deal, locking in money is not the worst thing.
Eric, can I ask you a quick question? The 1 year that Cleveland can offer him, you said it's $6 million more than the Lakers can. What is that number?
Well, it's not $6 million more. Well, the Lakers can offer the minimum, right? So the minimum for Kuminga is how many years of service? He's 5 years of service, so his minimum is 2.8 million, right? So the Cavs can do now. The Cavs can't actually do this yet, but they have access to a 6.1 million taxpayer mid-level. The problem is they would have a second apron hard cap, which I think they can. Oh, let me go to Cleveland. Yeah, I think they can make that work, but it depends on what Harden. That's really the question with Harden. But it's reasonable. It's feasible without any giant moves. Now they could also do a sign and trade, but if they do a sign and trade, then they have a first apron hard cap, which is at 183. Sorry, is at 209. They're at 183 or 184. So it gets harder and harder to re-sign Harden at the number that they've sort of agreed to. From my understanding, they'll do Harden either 2 years at a higher number or 3 years at a lower number that allows the team. So imagine Harden on a 3-year deal with a low enough number to allow them to sign Kuminga at the taxpayer mid-level. That's like the release valve where, like, if I'm Kuminga, that's still a terrible choice, right? Like $6 million versus if the Lakers could give him 15, 18, 20. And the problem with the Lakers is that they also have a hard cap. So I have them maxed out at 17 as far as what they can realistically start Kuminga at. Now it goes up 5% each year. So
that's predominantly through a sign and trade.
This is the only way through. Yeah.
So now you need a little help from some of these other, obviously Atlanta.
Right. Well, see, that's the problem. So let's say that let's take Vanderbilt out of the mix for a moment because he has another year, and let's just go with expiring guys to make it as now. Maybe a team wants Vanderbilt, but they could do players like Jaden Hardy, Jake LaRavia, Dalton Connect, and technically Bronny James if they want to keep Bron. I don't know, but like let's say they put a few of these guys together, they could get up to a certain number, over $20 million, or something that Kuminga would want. The challenge is they have to get back to 14 players, and they have a first apron hard cap because when you're the Lakers, you acquired Walker Kessler via sign and trade, that locked you in at a 209 maximum salary. Lakers right now are at about 200 or 201, so they only have about 8 million that they can add. Now you subtract players and trade, and you can get up to about 17, but you have to get to 14 total players. So I'm sure I could come up with some other ways to make it work where he's getting a little bit more, but it's realistically very difficult. So, but let's just say 17 is the number, right? The Hawks are at about 6 to 6.5 million under the tax. So if the Lakers sent out like Hardy and LaRavia, that's 12 million. So if they're taking in 12 million and they're not subtracting anything because Kuminga's a free agent, now they're 6 million over the tax. So
they almost just have no incentive as well. And I don't know how many players they have on their roster, but to make that math,
that's the other problem.
They're adding 4 guys on that roster.
Well, they have 17 guys. the Hawks do. Right?
They're about to have a football team or a baseball team by the time they're done making a deal.
In the offseason, you can go up to 21, I believe. So they have one. Mohamed Gay is non-guaranteed, so they can cut him if they choose. But he's hurt, and so that money won't even come off their books until he's healthy. So basically, they need a trade that reduces players, or they can cut. But and look, they can go into the tax, but to me, it's unrealistic for this team to go into the tax because I track regularly since the last CBA 2017, and they haven't paid the tax any of that time. So to assume that they're going to go into the tax now, and then also to get what from the Lakers, like, do they need those players? Are those players important to them? Probably not. And then if the Lakers are offering a pick swap, are you going into the tax to buy a pick swap? First round pick swap feels unrealistic. So that doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means that you need a third team, and then you need some incentive for that third team to do so. So what are you giving that third team? What are you giving the Hawks so that they do it? And then you got to get a third team, and you got to incentivize that team as well. So you get into all the assets that the Lakers have left to get Kuminga.
I think Pincus and you could tell me because you have a lot of interaction as well. The Kuminga thing it's almost become an exhausting story. However, I still think I had Bobby Marks on the show yesterday, and we were having the conversation. I said, Bobby, let's just put everything to the side. How do you think the fit would be? He's like, I love the fit. Now, everybody's going to have a different opinion on that. Obviously, it depends how you get him and everything else. But I think for the Lakers, I think it makes more sense for the Lakers than it probably does with all these other moving parts, right? I don't see why Atlanta has any interest in doing any of this. Now, like you said, maybe there's some creative pick swap. Maybe there's other ways of getting there. The cleanest way to get him is just basically if Jonathan Kuminga decided, I'm going to use this next year to prove that I got a ton of value and I will play this year and I don't care what the price is. And I'm going to create real value for next year and moving forward. We'll see what happens. I think there's more teams next year that have some cap space and maybe there's a longer term deal for Jonathan Kuminga. If we turn on that one, just because, like I said, I think you explained it as good as you possibly can of all the different scenarios for Kuminga. If we turn on that one and just real quick on the PJ Washington front, because I know that was part of your article as well. You feel like there's anything on the PJ Washington front, or is this just seem more people are associating PJ Washington because he used to play with Luka and the Lakers need that type of player on the roster?
I think it's multi-level because, for one, Dallas doesn't have the same coach and it doesn't have the same leadership. So the people that loved PJ Washington aren't there anymore. I mean,
Sure.
at least not in charge, right? So usually, especially when I talk to other teams, they'll say, "Oh yeah, they're going to completely rebuild around Cooper Flag." Everyone's on the way out. But then you start to talk to people, and it's like, "Well, I heard they like Najee Marshall and that they weren't trading him, so then they extended him. They could still trade him, but I don't think that's the intent." As Jake said about Daniel Gafford, the challenge is that Derek Lively hasn't been healthy consistently. So the last I heard is that it would take more to get Gafford out just because they need a center. And if Lively's not healthy, they don't necessarily want to. They have Morris Johnson Jr., Musa. Aldama is at least 7 feet. He's not a center, but he could be a stretch option. And then PJ does play, I don't know, maybe I guess some small ball 5, but realistically, they would be best off having Gafford for a while. But PJ, it's like if you start Flag at the 4 and you have Ricochet and Aldama backing him up, I guess you can play Cooper at the 3 and back him up with Marshall. So maybe they play PJ and Flag. So we don't know, they have a new coach, they have a new leadership. We just don't know. And also that money is really the thing. Is like you look at their money and you're like, is this a team that really wants to be paying PJ, even though they just extended him? He's just starting his extension, but the people who extended him aren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. Do you want to pay him 19, 8, 21, 23, 24, or 25? Towards the end, it's a 4-year deal. So that's really the issue. Do you want to pay that money? And if there's a way out now, do they want to help the Lakers? Do they want to help Luka? Is that a PR nightmare for them? I haven't heard enough to say there's anything in the running. I just know that they have too many players. The guy they're trying to get out of is Klay. And until that's resolved, they won't really know. Because if they trade Klay, then what do they get back? Or if they don't trade Klay and they buy him out, then they're fine. Then they're back at 15. But they need to make some other choices and just make some long-term decisions. Like the Kuminga thing, in a vacuum of saying the Lakers don't have a power forward, I would rather them get Kuminga than not have anybody in that. I think they're a better team if you add Kuminga. But if you were to say between the two, I like the PJ Washington fit more. The contract goes longer, but it's not an outrageous number. It isn't small, but it's not outrageous. But it's a proven commodity, and he's just more of a willing role player. He knows what he'll take the shot. He's not a great shooter, but he shoots it very willingly from the corner and will miss on it. He won't he'll make a certain number. He's not the best shooter, but the offense requires that. I don't know if you saw in the playoffs, there were a few guys without calling too many guys out who the ball would come to them and they just wouldn't shoot the ball. And it's even Kennard, who was the best shooter, sometimes if it wasn't a great shot, he wouldn't take it. It's dude, sure, you just got to shoot the ball. Doesn't matter if it goes in. It's like, this is what the offense is asking. It's the best shot you're going to get. And I think PJ is the guy who's going to shoot that ball and miss and be fine with it, still play defense. Whereas Kuminga might take the ball and like dribble it into the high post and try to get a shot off when that's not really what the offense dictates. So like, this is my personal take on the basketball, but we're talking about the choice between two guys. If you're saying the choice is no guys, then Kuminga is go get Kuminga. If you have a choice between the two, personally, I prefer PJ.
Final one, buddy, and I appreciate Pincus. That's a great breakdown right there of a number of these players that are still kind of on the table here. I saw this, and I'll probably play the clip after, but last time we talked, I don't think LeBron had made a decision yet. So LeBron chose Philly. And what do you make of the conversation out there that, hey, could the Lakers have figured out a way to keep LeBron? And would LeBron have given them that, obviously this unbelievable discount like he took in Philadelphia? Do you think there was a world that the Lakers could have kept LeBron? LeBron would have accepted that type of dollar amount. And here are the Lakers sitting right now, take the current roster and plug LeBron into that power forward spot. Was there ever a world you think that could have happened, or do you feel like, this thing was coming to an end no matter what?
Well, I mean, my reporting has been pretty consistent. I mean, I think the first time I was officially on record was probably December when I wrote that but I think I wrote that even before then. Like, I think I wrote it last year, like when they didn't give him an offer, because he could have opted out last summer and re-signed. So yes, there's a path. It just needs a time machine for different decisions to have been made along the way. If the Lakers really wanted him back, he could have opted out and re-signed on a 2 or 3 year deal that like was at a number they could live with, that would still give them flexibility and would have allowed them to maybe even do some more last year, let alone. So, neither side was on the same page for a long time. And that, they had a great partnership. They won a championship together. They drafted his son. There's a lot of positives that happened. But I would say it was topsy-turvy and up and down, the relationship between the Lakers and LeBron James. It's just, they weren't always successful. They weren't always winning. So there was some frustration. LeBron wanted Russell Westbrook. They went and traded for Russell Westbrook. You could point fingers like Spider-Man over whose fault it was, but the reality is everyone was at fault. But the team made the choices that it made, and you don't. Ultimately, it's their decision what they do, not LeBron's. And I think there was some tension throughout the years. And so when they didn't offer him a contract last year, that was that. It was always going to be that. And at least that's what I've been reporting for a long time. And then he left, so I have nothing to disprove that intel. So I was under the impression that LeBron was leaving no matter what. I could come up with some scenario where like everything went wrong for everybody and LeBron just decided to stay. And maybe the Lakers were hoping, maybe there was a world in which they were hoping for, like, they would just build the perfect team around LeBron and then LeBron would come back. But I think the Lakers really wanted to move on as well and properly let this be Luka Doncic's team. And I think that's the right decision for them anyway, whether they're a little bit worse, because if you just add LeBron to this team, it's a much better team. It didn't happen. Like, maybe there was a diplomatic way that this happens. I don't think so, but they made a lot of choices along the way. Some were great. They got a championship. They have Luka. That not every move they made was terrible, but they also made a terrible move with Westbrook that broke up a championship team, and they've been sort of trying to get back since then, and to get to the conference finals, a few years ago. So it's, this is not a disaster of a run for the Lakers over LeBron. Laker fans are appropriately spoiled because you're used to winning, like, Kobe and Powell won twice, went to the finals 3. Shaq and Kobe got 3. Magic and Kareem, they got 5, right? So this is what Laker fans are born into and expect. And they only won 1 when you have franchises that are, the Knicks are like, Knicks fans are losing their minds. The first time they've won really in our lifetime, depends on how old you are. And the Lakers are like, oh, lifetime. We're like, in the LeBron era, they only got one. I mean, geez, it's like a failure. To me, that's crazy.
Sure.
But Laker fans are spoiled, and I would hope that no Laker fan is taking that as an insult. They should be celebrating that their franchise is, one of the most successful ones in the league. That and the Celtics are the top teams historically. So
I think it's good perspective. I do agree. I don't think it just felt like there wasn't a way that was going to continue. And there probably wasn't a world where LeBron would say, I'd take $4 million from the Lakers, but he would probably do it somewhere else. So, Eric, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for the insight, buddy. Always good to have you on during, obviously, the season and the off season. I'm sure we'll connect soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right. That is Eric Pincus. Good stuff there from Eric. All right, good stuff. Yeah, it's his articles, by the way. I love reading into some of those articles. Eric Scalar, let's pop up that Nick Wright LeBron thing because I think that'll be a good transition here. But I think that, the conversation, there's just the LeBron piece right there. There's a reason why we're having that conversation. I'll play this clip from Nick Wright, and Nick Wright doing his podcast, basically saying that the Lakers were the biggest losers in this whole LeBron situation and that they screwed up. And I want to play it because I think it's going to be a very big difference than I think most Laker fans probably feel, number one. And number two, I don't know how realistic it was. So let's take a listen here to Nick Wright.
Far and away, the biggest loser of this whole thing is the Lakers. LeBron James saved the damn franchise. That team, telling everyone who would listen what a pain in the ass LeBron is, led to a scenario where LeBron James was willing to play for the league minimum, but not for them. Turning the team over to Luka is totally understandable. There's a way to do that and keep an all-NBA caliber guy on the minimum. Every single move the Lakers made this offseason, re-signing Austin, trading for Walker Kessler, adding some athleticism. You could have done all of that and still brought LeBron back for what the Sixers just got him for. And instead, they couldn't wait for the LeBron era to be over. Couldn't wait.
All right, good clip. Interesting. Good for a podcast. Good for sports talk radio. Good for all that stuff. I just disagree. I don't think there was a world LeBron was coming back. And I just don't think there was a world where LeBron was coming back at $4 million. Not with the Lakers. And, again, I'll say this. I mean, imagine LeBron accomplishing what he did in L.A., making God knows how much money for the Los Angeles Lakers, how big of a brand he is around the NBA, around the world, and everything else. And the Lakers coming to him in the offseason and saying, hey, we're going to do all these things. We just need you to take $4 million. We're going to go pay Austin Reaves $180. We just need you to take $4 million. We're going to go pay Walker Kessler $130, $140, whatever they ended up paying him. We're going to go pay Mamu, Quentin Grimes, everything else, but we want you to make the same amount of money as Kevon Looney. Wasn't going to happen with the Lakers. And I think, Nick Wright, I think there's something that he's missing here. I think there are times where just a relationship comes to an end. That was the Lakers and LeBron. And I think there are a lot of Laker fans that looked at LeBron and said, wait a minute here. You went and took $4 million for Philly, and you never took a discount for the Los Angeles Lakers, throughout your career with the Lakers. Well, why the hell didn't you do that for the Lakers? And maybe we had a better chance of competing. I'm sure LeBron was looking at it the other way and saying, what do you mean you want me to take a discount? How about you run your front office better because I'm a player that's worth every single penny that's being paid to me? I think there's a big misinterpretation there between what Nick Wright is talking about and what was the actual reality of the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, he is right that the Lakers were probably ready to get out of the LeBron James business. I think he is right that LeBron was quick to say, all right, you know what? You don't want me here in Los Angeles? Cool. I'm not only going to go to the Eastern Conference. I'm not only going to go to Philly, but I'm going to go sign for $4 million. That almost sounds like a relationship where the two sides are basically, it's like they're both taking shots at each other indirectly. The Lakers clearly wanted to hand the keys over to Luka Dončić. LeBron clearly, at least in his mind, thought, all right, I want a chance of go winning an NBA championship. And not only do I not think it's going to be with the Lakers, I'll go over here, I'll go somewhere else, and I'll go try to help that team make it happen based off of the salary that I'm going to take here, which is obviously the minimum. I just didn't see a path. I don't know if I saw a path for the Lakers. I think if the Lakers had true legitimate interest in bringing LeBron back, LeBron would be like, yeah, go put that money on the table. And whether that dollar amount would have been 30 or 25 or 35 or whatever that dollar amount would have been, I can almost guarantee you, at least from my perspective, it wasn't going to be for 4. That wasn't what LeBron was going to give the Lakers. And listen, and it kind of is what it is at this point, right? But you do look at this Lakers roster. You do look at what they have and what they don't have. They're looking for a starting power forward. I don't think there's ever a world that LeBron would have said, I'll take 4 from the Lakers. And maybe that could have just been over time. Maybe there's a little animosity, as Eric Pincus was talking about as well, when a season ago they had a chance to obviously give LeBron a player option again, and they said, no more player options, no more 1+1s. We're putting our foot in the sand here, and we'll just have to worry about it in the offseason. And that was the end result. So that's what eventually happened. Now, if you want to call it a Lakers mistake, I don't know. I honestly just believe that it was just time for both sides to move on. That's my perspective on that. We'll read some of the comments here. I know there's a ton of comments that we can get into. So I'll probably just spend the rest of the show talking about that. Or I'm sorry, I'll spend the rest of the show just reading some of the comments here because I got to catch up anyways. So let's start taking a look at some of the comments. We'll probably jump around because I know there's some people that are going to want to mention Klay, PJ Washington, Jonathan Kuminga, and then the LeBron topic as well. All right. Thank you for the jewels there. Appreciate you very much. All right. Let's get some more in here. Shout out here. People very generous. Shout out to you as well. Let's get this one a 10 spot here. Luka can't be a wing stopper and has to guard power forward spot anyway. So he's our power forward. And we just filled the 3 spot with Thibault, Zaire Williams as wing stoppers, and Grimes as point of attack with Reaves chasing and Kessler anchor. We could try to make it sound like it's a conversation and there's a path and everything else. But to be honest with you, I think the only path for the Lakers is go get a starting power forward. So whether that's going to be Jonathan Kuminga or it's going to be somebody else, I mean, I will say this, kind of the crazy thing about Kuminga in regards to some of the conversations that we were just having, the conversation we were having with Eric Pincus, that money dried up quick for Jonathan Kuminga. That money is not there. So if he wants to play, you guys heard Bobby Marks yesterday say, I'd love for him to play for the minimum, find the best situation, go ball out this year, and then next year try to come back and try to get paid. Different from Pincus. Pincus is like, no, he should sign a 3-year deal with the Lakers and get as much money as he possibly can. Maybe he's not as confident of what the future will hold for Jonathan Kuminga as far as dollars go. All right, let's get another one here. I don't want, by the way, shout out again. Thank you for the 10 spot. Very much appreciated right there. I don't want Klay at all, but would take him off Dallas' hands if it means getting Washington and or Gafford too. I don't think that's a package deal. I think that's just, one there. I like Nick Wright, but this is the extreme bias at work, and it's silly of him to keep harping on this. Everyone's better off now. We should all just move on. I lean more towards this. I lean more towards I don't think LeBron would have ever came back to the Lakers for $4 million, period. I don't care how they treated him. And I'm talking about if they continue to put him on a pedestal, if they started the offseason or maybe even a year ago and saying, LeBron, whatever it is that you need, we'll do anything that you want. He ain't signing for $4 million with the Lakers. He's just not. If LeBron didn't get that player option last year, you think LeBron was looking for a 1+1 and that the second year would be a vet minimum? Obviously, he wasn't. LeBron's not taking less than $30 million to be on the Lakers. He's just not. Maybe 25 at the absolute bare bones he would take for the Lakers. But I do think LeBron decided, all right, I don't think the Lakers want me back. I think they're trying to build around Luka. The message was clear with not giving him another, obviously another player option. And I think the Lakers were right to do that. I mean, he's 41. He'll be 42. Can we see how the season goes before we want to offer? How is it going with him and Luka? How's that dynamic going? And if they had made a decision they didn't want LeBron moving forward, LeBron said, cool, then I'm going to go try to win another championship. I'll go to the Eastern Conference, and I'll take the least amount of money possible so that I can put myself in a position to try to win. It's not guaranteed for Philly, but Philadelphia obviously has got a legitimate chance, and it's not just because of LeBron. It's because Tyrese Maxey's a stud. VJ Edgecombe's got a lot of promise, and Jaylen Brown was part of, obviously, the mix for the Philadelphia 76ers that nobody really knew was going to happen. So nobody really thought that he was going to be a part of the mix when all that started. All right, let's look at some more here. Nick is wrong. Don't care what Nick says. Lakers are big. And listen, Laker fans shouldn't take any of this stuff personal or anything like that. He's given his opinion. That's all good. I mean, he could give his opinion all day long, and you could obviously choose to agree with it or disagree with it. I disagree with it because I will say this. I don't think there was a world where LeBron was going to take $4 million for the Lakers. I just don't. Would have preferred to keep LeBron, going to miss LeBron, the player, but not his entourage of idiots. Well, I mean, a lot comes with LeBron, right? Let's just put it that way. A lot comes with LeBron. I will say this. I'll agree with what Nick Wright said in the beginning, the saving the franchise. I don't know about saving, but let's just say putting the franchise back on track because the franchise was in a pretty awful position before that happened, before he ended up coming. All right, let's we'll look at a couple more comments here as we go, and we'll continue to obviously continue to read some of the comments. I got a couple NBA stories I'm going to get into here real quick. Can I just say this on Eric Pincus as well? How about his thoughts on the whole? How about his thoughts on the whole Kawhi Leonard stuff? How about his thoughts basically saying, hey, I think there's enough there that the Clippers did wrong. All right, you got to prove it. Let's just say I think Ballmer is going to hire some, let's just say from an attorney perspective. Yeah, powerful people can figure out ways to, at least put some stuff in doubt. We'll see how it all plays out, but Jesus, that's an interesting one to obviously keep in mind. I'm going to wait on this one, the Pelinka's offseason. I think that's a conversation that we could have another time, but Pelinka's offseason, just kind of assessing what he's done so far. And can you really assess the offseason without everything else? All right, NBA Players Association opens up a training facility in Los Angeles. This is a couple of news around the NBA, a couple stories around the NBA. In Los Angeles, in the facility the Clippers used to use for practice in Playa Vista, over 80 players have already used the facility this summer. Kind of interesting there. In an interview with Sam Yip of Hoops Hype, Chris Bosh cautions Wemby. I saw this. Let me read this of what Chris Bosh said about Victor Wembanyama. He said, take your medicine. Make sure he's staying on top of his regimen to make sure that this doesn't happen again, because it only takes one more time. It happened one more time for me. It happened twice, and I couldn't play anymore. If you guys know what he's talking about the blood clot medication after 2 incidents ended Chris Bosh's career. So that's what he's referring to there. Chris Bosh obviously talking specifically about Victor Wembanyama. So you almost forgot Wemby kind of dealt with the blood clots. This was not last year, but the year prior, where he kind of cut his season short there. Okay, final NBA story I'm going to get into, and then we'll take a look at a couple more of the comments. Blazers set to play the London Lions in a preseason in the first matchup between a British team and an NBA team. The London Lions are coached by Arvydas Sabonis. If you guys remember, Arvydas Sabonis' middle son and Domantas Sabonis' older brother. So something to keep in mind there, keeping it in the family there. The Portland Trailblazers, kind of a weird thing going on with them and their owner. They're trying to get, I think, a new arena, or I don't know if they're trying to improve the current arena, something along those lines, but kind of some threats here of moving the Blazers out. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys something. As somebody who has dealt with a team leaving your city, the San Diego Chargers obviously moved and moved up to LA. It is literally the worst shit that can happen possibly for your city. Nothing is worse than when you have, especially where you only got so many franchises. the Portland Trailblazers should not be leaving Portland. The Supersonics should have never left Seattle. Especially markets like that, because I do think those are good markets, but you obviously have to have good ownership. That's a key piece to making sure that franchises thrive and everything else that comes with it. All right, a couple of comments and we're going to get out of here. Lakers stuck with Vando. Fire Pelinka. Those come up once a show. Those come up. Shout out to Eric Pincus for joining the show. Thank you to Eric Scalar for joining the show. I'm going to post something tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. We will not be live, but I will have a show posted for you guys at 8 a.m. Tomorrow. So just a heads up there. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the show. Please subscribe to the channel. See you guys tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Again, that will be a recorded show. Hopefully everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday.